also with the champion program, I think as we see there is the increased interest to it, I also see the other side that business find it or realize that champion programs are crucial but hard to scale. And so they need to kind of like go strip this a little bit back and take this from a business perspective and how can it benefit an overall strategic alignment, make the key, because it takes an army. How many people to build a program? It's not just the project managers or developers, it's the senior leadership, it's HR, it's so many aspects.
Welcome to the Elephant in AppSec, the podcast to explore, challenge, and boldly face the AppSec elephants in the room. I'm Alexandra, your host and AppSec enthusiast and growth manager at Escape, an API discovery and security platform. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Magdalena Modric to the show. Magdalena is an AppSec Program Strategist at the Secure Code Barrier, where she's been empowering developers in the German-speaking market to build secure applications since 2018. Beyond her professional expertise, Magdalena is also a talented violinist, a wonderful reminder of how many AppSec professionals channel their passion into music and creativity outside of work. In this episode, Magdalena and I dive in the critical role of security champion programs in scaling security efforts effectively. We explore why metrics should focus on business outcomes rather than just training participation, and whether cultural factors are the secret ingredient to successful security practices. And much more. If you're interested in specific stories of companies that introduce security champion programs and scale them, this episode is for you. Dive right in.
So, hi Magdalena, I'm super excited to have you on a podcast today. So thanks a lot for joining, especially at such kind of still early hours, probably the earliest podcast that I've found actually. At least in my time zone, in our time zone, and so usually it's late in the evening. But it's fun to straight from the morning getting into the podcasting and the application security as well. So thanks a lot for joining. Super excited to have you today. And I think it's summer period right now, so I think we're kind of now in between the different events. I think Black Hat is happening in a week or so, and there was OWASP Lisbon just I think a month ago at the end of June. So a lot going on in the security field, application security. I know you went to OWASP Lisbon. I was not able to attend. It was my birthday, so I didn't. I had other plans for that, but I think the feedback that I've heard from the event, it was great. That it was super, so many people attending and from all over, mainly Europe, and very good atmosphere. It was more very practitioner oriented, I would say. Very not salesy, and a lot of great talks. I think one of the keynote speakers was another guest on the podcast, Rob van der Veer, and I saw there were at least 2 talks, on the security champion program. So it's kind of a hot topic, I guess, right now, right?
I definitely agree. First of all, to the OWASP leaders and the organizers. I actually volunteered as well to help because obviously OWASP is a driven community by volunteers. But it was really fun and it was such a great atmosphere. And the talks, like you just mentioned, yes, I joined with by Yahoo. And the title was Harnessing Nature's Wisdom, Growing Security Champion Program, and then turning this into a security powerhouse. So the speaker opened up to the floor first, and she asked, have the viewers run a security champion program? And I have to say, a lot of hands went up. So I was like, interesting. So I kind of got a little consent. And I also have to say, I recently noticed the kind of focus on security champion program due to budget also, kind of you strip back again of what you have on resources and the capabilities on what program you can maybe build. I have the feeling. But also there are maybe other factors that they are trying to start with a security champion program and then to scale it, but don't know really how. So I don't deny the value of the champion program that for development teams, but what I witnessed, it still has significant challenge in scaling this program effectively. Actually, the Worldwide Application Security Project, that's OWASP for the viewers who don't know what it is, they state, and I quote, "It can be hard to introduce security across development teams using security alone." Good. A good way to scale security and distribute security across development team is by using security champion. And then they list a few extra responsibilities that a security champion may take on, like monitoring security best practice, helping, the security teams run activities like capture the flags or tournaments. Another key aspect security champion can be really useful is help improve communication between development teams and the security teams. So that, and what I heard with Yahoo, the way I see it is security champions are levers and or accelerators for security champion programs or security programs, or if you want to change your AppSec framework. And I argue here even that the effectiveness in maximizing business value and reducing risk can be limited.
I think just a lot of people probably start in the security champion programs because they see that the tools are not effective enough. At least a lot of tools, surface vulnerabilities, but there is a huge part of actually fixing them. And to be able to fix them, you have to work with the developers, but it's so hard to get developers, on board with the security. So if you can be super lucky, and I did have a security champion very organically, and then it just organically kind of grows within the culture of organization, but most often than not, you need to give some push, I guess, and inside the company to actually kind of look for those champions, because for now, if it's just you have multiple of tools, all of them surface vulnerabilities, you don't have the way kind of to prioritize them correctly, don't have the way to actually, or nothing gets fixed, because I already heard honestly from some product security, for at least one product security engineer, some more, that they took them sometimes months to fix vulnerabilities. I mean, they're not exposed publicly, so they hope it doesn't get exploited, but still it stays super risky to actually not fixing at least high priority or medium risk priority vulnerabilities. So I think it's kind of, you need this human aspect, you need building this relationships, you need to introduce kind of fun experience at least, but it starts small and then it can hopefully grow through this fun experience. And I think when we discussed also kind of before in the talks, they mentioned they had 30 security champions, which is, a lot, at least it is a lot to, on the size, usually hopefully you can get one, but 30 is a lot. Do you think it's so much harder to actually manage a security champion program like this?
Of a customer that I work with in a company in Liechtenstein, and they actually they flipped the coin. So first, they prioritize shifting security from an afterthought to a core development aspect or process. And they done this by empowering the developer, like you just said, on security knowledge, improving the tool usage, and so, the security issues, right? Targeted what are our top vulnerabilities. We looked at their SAST and scanning results or the pen test results, and targeted exactly those with tailored training. Training they used was fun and engaging and encouraged developers to integrate it into their workflow as well. So it was really, for me, it was what I use in my daily business. So they really inspired through the relevancy and through saying, hey, this is exactly what you face every day. So not only have they optimized the development lifecycle, but also they have improved the retention rate of developers. rapid program growth, were able to identify those key security champion program. So first to the development team, and during the course of the program growth, they identified those security champions because they created that buzz, they attracted more people, and they also showed benefits to leadership and to the team leads, and therefore then they were able to expand a security champion program.
And how do you make it fun? Like, because definition of fun is different,
I mean, I think about obviously the of security training, Secure Good Warrior, or they have is a built-in future like tournaments, right? For example, competition. I mean, most developers come from a background, so they do really love that aspect of life connected, collecting points, having a leaderboard, maybe some pizza, and maybe like what we've seen in the past as well, like some themes like Star Wars, Clash of Keyboards, and some great things came about, and some swags as the winners. And so, like you said, many other cultures or many other developers also prefer maybe just competition. They prefer a learning path or a certification program where they have to progress in career development or download certificates that will benefit them personally as well, of course, that they can always bring as a skills, because it's all about skills. They love to learn new things and break things and fix things, and I to try to kind of learn to understand them. That's what always the biggest tip I give to project managers: go speak to them, speak to the team leads, kind of get a consent. And when we ask developers, usually, and at least, by the way, I'm in the most my project are mostly in the German speaking region, so Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And when we ask developer at the start of the project what kind of inspired them or what would compel them to do secure code, things like more responsibility projects, being assigned to have fun, engaging tournaments, or capital flag activities. I would say, and enough in my region, I always have over 60% assessments. So even a test, like they want to prove that they have learned something. So, it's always asking, what do you maybe prefer? Sometimes they choose tournaments, sometimes they choose assessments. So that would be my recommendation, to always go
ask. Yeah, I mean, try to differentiate it a bit from a standard learning path, but indeed you just have to ask and understand what's important depending on the culture of your organization, depending on a person sometimes as well, how big development teams are as well. Do you think, since you mentioned like you work for German-speaking markets like Germany, Austria, Switzerland, at least I know that in Europe you have some, let's say, bias or some kind of cliches that are related to the German-speaking cultures. Do you think actually like this attitude, like being super organized and like that, does it reflect somehow in developers towards the security?
Right, Germans definitely value, a structured approach and clear process. That can definitely come to benefit if you implement, a C program, because it's well planned. They really take it serious. They really want to understand, their processes, and really want to work with the people together, because we have to even start a project. We have to convince a workers' council. It's quite typical for the German market, and get their approval. Basically, what they do is they protect employment data privacy, and then kind of like allowing to track PII, so personal identifier information. So data anonymization is essential for my market. So customers that switch that on can still measure on a team level, on two super admins to kind of view the data for the purpose of managing the program, but would never be able to go and talk about the performance of an individual, based on what they do on the learning platform or how they, improve their skills or so. So we need to stay kind of high level. What it means is that programs, unfortunately, it's just that it is what it is. It can hardly My experience shows that voluntary programs do not stick or scale to realize value outcomes. So we do find a few ways around. So German friends, reward system and clear communication is being key in my projects. So benefits of security. So is it coming from the top because it's a crucial strategic, patient by top management and therefore also it down from the top. Personally, on my level, a benefit because I get certified, I get skilled up, I get career path, it's hard for me. Again, security champion program is maybe built into it where they seeing this as a added responsibility. When we think back of our surveys, they want that. And also critical projects. I mean, there's companies, they do things like for business critical application, a developer would not be assigned if they don't reach a certain level of secure code skills. And then it's kind of called the license to code, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Motivating as well developers really, really into the core to kind of, take time, improve their skills because they do want to be assigned to this. Information or the performance, I always kind of try to take the project manager away from that and to think beyond playtime and user, So let's take it a bit up, a notch up, and it goes back to, again, let's look at metrics like the vulnerability age. Do we reduce that? To your point earlier, time. So let's, instead of tracking the time spent on the platform, can we realize that fixing vulnerability has been reduced, or mean time to remediation? There are certain metrics that we then recommend to rather track than focusing so much on the individual, but like focus on the project and also on the products or the releases that are attached to, new releases that has been produced for customers. Can we there see a higher satisfaction of customers, tie this back, other kind of more holistic approach or holistic measurement. Project, which just was quite interesting as well, of the Cyber Resilience Act, they had a security assurance review, and they identify a weakness in providing secure coding principles or guidelines to their developers. Like, it was a big gap of knowledge. So what they want to do is integrate learning into their tools, their SaaS tools. So it's just-in-time training, where whilst they work in their tools on a ticket or an issue, they would get like guidelines or a video or something that guides them through the vulnerability at hand. And so hopefully they can go back master, understand the concept, and then work on the issue more informed.
Okay, it says, but when you, for example, as you mentioned before, when you mandate something, you said it's never really on voluntary basis, it doesn't really work, but when you mandate something, it's possible that some people will be, even if you like highlight all the benefits for them of actually getting like coding license because you got like security check, still some people might revolt, I would say. Has it ever happened in your experience?
I mean, they have on it or just
Yeah.
Certainly, you will always have some who will think, I don't need this. I'm well aware. It's usually as well maybe some senior developers who have like proud, obviously attitude to their work, and you don't want to call your baby ugly. I always say, right? You don't want to get the baby ugly. So it pretty much the same. You telling them, your work is not secure or it's not qualitative. So mind shift, and this is the cultural aspect of a program, right? It's so many different elements you need to think about, not into tool or the technical aspect, but it's engagement of security, the engagement of the top layer management executives, or the team leads to inspire the developers. It's also it's like making a brand where they actually think, I want to be part of this, like the security servers, or whatever name they can come, or the Star Wars, whatever theme you put again to this program, that people want to be part of it. Kind of have a more soft approach. Obviously, you can't force people to do it. Again, that goes back to the mandation that it's what most people can't. We think about what some customers done, and I'm talking here maybe of a Sage that's also available publicly to read on, but they maximized a security trumping program and their impact to the wider business, again, by focusing on risk reduction, the security by design principle, and solution time. Again, when you think about making their work life easier, if you get to get to them, that this is benefiting you because you can release faster. You won't be keeping disturbed by false insecure code. You will be able to identify vulnerabilities faster because you have learned that. That's a skill set on a learning platform. And that, instead of maybe then calling it a secure program or security program, it's a security control program, what they call. So you're controlling vulnerabilities, and as I said, implementing it into your complex technology environments is also a big key, because they don't like to move away from their environment. Ideally, they stay where they are in their tools, in their IT. So
comfort zone.
Security to them as well, really important. I mean, we do try to innovate as much, and actually now have any Git committers we track with that new feature, and it's already been received so well. Check who's a Git repos and are business critical, right? And we'll give you the visibility and just a complete overview on who commits code in what language, trained or untrained in specific area, because a lot of times you will be surprised, and I'm keep being really not shocked, but like always like kind of a bit concerning that customers, or a lot of companies don't even know how many developers they have, where they sit. A lot of them have third party,
like consultants.
So they don't have an overview at all, actually, who commits code to what critical application, what language they use. They don't even have sometimes even a defined role. Like they don't know who is a actual typical developer, not even sometimes HR what was able to help. This to the commits and the repos, you will get that full visibility now. Work now with projects, and then they will see, okay, who commits, what training they need. So you're much more informed to then direct them to the right learning path. And that goes back to your point. Basically, will then be like, okay, there's no other excuse to say, no, I don't need this, because yes, it's what I'm coding. Yes, I do have knowledge, and yes, I am getting relevant and highly tailored training, gamified and in a fun and bite-sized manner. So usually, the experience over the years, been a little resistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's easy to justify because you're tracking at so many metrics, and even despite production of personal data, it's even if it stays high level, you can still show the impact for them to actually motivate people. Do you think like compliance sometimes pushes also people, let's say on top down level, to actually mandate security training? Because I think, for example, for finance, it's not for finance, for a new PCI DSS, as I remember, security training gets mandatory for 4.0 starting from next year, so I remember correctly. So do you think it's compliance also something that kind of you have to be mandated, and it helps to push things internally as well?
The financial industries anyway are leading the way when it comes to this security.
Okay.
Have learned, one of our first customers were in the finance industry, and we have learned so many things from our customers ourselves, right? How to do the right, how to build programs. I mean, they have led the way. And yet finance firms can mandate, because of course, based on the amount of sensitive data carrying. So complete different angle to it. But if you think about companies in manufacturing or automotive who still kind of follow suit, they maybe don't have yet that urgency. Excuse me, but it is definitely being tried to enforce now. Cyber Resilient Act, or kind of broadening the scope of the regulator. But I kind of say a value use case for compliance, I would argue, is an outcome and not a program. So it's kind of like a compliant tick box. And I do say, like, if a project comes and they say, I just want to tick, I just want to do PCI DSS training for developers, they usually do it for a few months and then
forget about it. And it's not something continuous and actually like continuous learning path. But how does it impact, let's say you already have a training in place, some of your developers are trained, and there is, let's say, a new batch joining. Do they have to, do they still can they still participate in things like leaderboards, etc., even if they're newbies? Or how do you make sure, or in your experience, how companies can make sure that it's actually adjusted, like the level of security knowledge between the oldies and the newbies is actually kind of adjusted as quick as possible?
It's a really good point, and on a lot of things here. So what we usually recommend is there are to this program which on onboarding. I mean, even for recruitment, I have seen customer using a one-time assessment that has been sent to possible candidates to kind of test them a little bit on their knowledge. And R has successfully as well used that, or the head of to recruit top talent, because Germany also has not been left out with all this, top, talent. So what we do is very strong onboarding, or a system on the platform where come to the platform new or to this program, they get, of course, like a baseline course for the beginning, for example. Then they are involved into more broad aspects of tournaments, again pulling them into the fun aspect and engaging with also senior developers, because it really triggers great conversation, right? Juniors learn from seniors. Again, it touches again on this whole security champion concept, right? You shadow more experienced developers, but the platform allows to adjust. For example, in my case, I adjust the platform when we build courses in mind of the level of expertise, of course. So starting easy, and then you can build up gradually more and more. And also some of the activities are more built to be more complex. You start easy with a video and some walkthroughs that are a bit more coaching style. We take them by the hand and walk them through what a vulnerability can cause, up until, complex, real life, application. I had actually in the OWASP someone coming up to us who uses us, and they said even senior developer, find it quite complex and hard, but that's what we want, right? We want to challenge.
Yes, that's the goal. It's so fun.
It's certainly a really good point, but on the retention, right? Developer retention, I feel, became a really big trend in my region, and we're curious to hear from the audience if that's also a big metrics that became part of a security champion program. But how do you do this, right? It's such a human element. You can't track it because there's not a metrics on like hands-on metrics like reduced vulnerabilities or ETR.
It's hard to tie it exactly to, let's say, security champion program, because there can be so many variables in place, relationship with your manager, or general, like, I don't know, your friends, all of your friends suddenly left, and you can be the best person, like the best security person ever, but it's hard to tie it directly.
Of someone who a project they were actually really successful by again, it ties back of maturing your program first, right? I mean, a lot of times what I see over the years is they start with a certain, amount of developer. Usually it's about 20% what I recommend of your developer population. and then,
Okay.
test it, bring it to the mass, kind of slowly introducing it. Also learn and fail. It will be normal in your first year of, running such a program. You can lean on experts like, the customer success managers or whoever helps you build the program. But then what then happened is they extend it for a 3 to 5 year period. More and more customers I see want to, because they really see it takes time to mature. It takes
Yeah,
time
makes sense.
to involve people. It takes time to change the mindset culturally, right? One customer has then built a metrics for tackling, or trying to kind of get a more overview of retention, customer retention and happiness. Do maybe some surveys in, every quarter or every half year. And I think also Yahoo, the speaker of I mentioned earlier, that was also one part she mentioned, is having those constant check-ins with your developer. How do you think the program is benefiting you? Is it still benefiting you? What do you need? Is there anything missing? So those surveys, and then obviously tracking, how long they stay. I was really encouraged. One sat in a workers' council committee meeting. The focus is always, are you able to anonymize the data in PII?
Okay. Yeah, more like organizational process than actually like how can we make it work, like from the security.
And it was so pleasantly encouraged that they actually started to see this, hey, we invest in our developers. Like, this is such a great investment. How can we make sure we keep the talent? Like, is there a way that we can make it sure that this is built into their career path, that we are encouraging them also to stay with us, to grow with us, and also rewarding them? So I was like, was spot on, that they thought on a different angle to that, rather than just fixing themselves on playtime and user utilization. They thought beyond this, because again, retaining talent and attracting top talent is really something.
It's hard. Yeah.
So I was really encouraged that Workers' Council Committee thought different about it, and I hope many more will follow suit. And I do think it is more understood. I mean, you need to understand a committee is put together by different departments, so it's not just all IT people in there. It's from the finance department, it's from action side, it's from different parts of the business, so they don't necessarily understand or speak the language of an AppSec person. So hence, it's even more important to, from an aspect of, okay, what are the benefits? So that's why you need to find metrics as well, like that are important, like the top talent retention, utilization, release faster, products are more secure, you keep customer happy, the development life cycle, which means have a secure and faster release products, and so on. So would be always what I do, or what I recommend when I put together a workers' council deck with my project team.
And what metric do you think would be that companies sometimes maybe push, to implement or to watch, but you think is not really effective to monitor?
Question again. I think projects, and I see a trend that they move away from it. But when we would kind of detach ourselves from just looking at utilization template, but because that's the biggest fear, like always at the beginning, right? We don't want to disturb developers. We want to them happy. We want them to enjoy it, and that's a very valid, concern.
Assumption, yeah.
Absolutely. But if you flip the coin and just make them understand that this is benefiting their daily work, because they will not face constantly SQL injection in their source code, because it has been trained to the teeth, removed. Some companies do that. I mean, of a big service provider, they've done a really pretty cool project. They had a group of developers trained, and then the same developer, another group of developers not trained, and they tracked certain vulnerabilities. And probably it's no surprise to you, but the team who was trained reduced vulnerability by up to
themselves.
right?
Okay.
Versus the team who was not trained, looking at the same vulnerability categories, they actually increased vulnerabilities.
It totally makes sense.
The program value was eating it away. So I'm always saying to or project managers, think about if you just do a small population of your developers, they are trained. You leave this huge still, of danger that eats away all the success of your program. It's like a catch-22, right? Like your own tail. You're like it's detaching yourself from those just simple usage of the training, but attach yourself to like business critical project. What is your next business area you need to train? For example, cloud developers. I mean,
Okay.
huge push to the cloud, right?
Yeah.
Developers are the one who first get training in this area because it's so critical. Then we go maybe to another area, mobile. It's a huge strategic aspect or a huge push from a company perspective. So you train them there. We even have now, of course, with the whole AI vibe and LLM.
Yeah, everyone has to train themselves on that for sure.
So it's a huge vibe, and developer want to know about all those new
Yeah.
things. So fatigue is definitely not settled in yet. So adapt to it and then provide this highly relevant training is also a big hit. I love it. So when Log4j was like, rattling the Java community, we released some content, and guess what? Of course, the huge influence
Okay.
platform, because everyone wanted to know about it, was amazing. And also, we always do little tests. We recommend to do little tests so they can see it with their eyes. Okay, do a generic course, long, all about top 10 of OS, and then do a course that is tailored to the developers or team's needs. So like the top vulnerability of a team or the top vulnerability of cloud and infrastructure as code. And then guess which course, of course, is completed with complete precision and, timely, promptly, is that.
That's tailored. Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
So it's always like making it bite-sized, relevant, and I think that also going into the commits and the repos will be really a game changer.
So you think overall, like the future of actual like security programs and security champions programs, it's all about the tailored experience.
Of course, always. That's on the personal level for the developers, right? Strategically, I think projects will be more business orientated. I do
Okay.
sense this for sure. So the need to quantify saved time that's returned to release new innovative products. Customer also want, as I said, longer terms program. I told you the trend is about 3 to 5 instead of annual. I think also is to hear from the audience if project manager wish HR would become more a key partner to address retention, personal development, which is critical for code contributors. That's also with the champion program. I think as we see there is the increased interest to it. I also see the other side that businesses find it or realize that champion programs are crucial but hard to scale. And so they need to kind of like go strip this a little bit back from a business perspective and how can it benefit an overall strategic alignment, make it sticky, because it takes an army of so many people to build a program. It's not just the project managers or developers, it's senior leadership, it's aspects that this is what I feel is shift left. It's not just, I know we actually say start left.
Yeah, I mean, start is left just means start as early as you can on CDLC, so it can makes makes sense, and it's building culture. It's maybe even earlier than doing any threat modeling exercise, because if you have a culture, you're going to think about all those exercises and then testing, etc., etc. So all of this, it's the more you, and I actually liked your point about involving more departments in that, like HR. I think it is actually super important, because it helps also. The more people are on board, the easier it is to change the culture, the easier it is to implement and make sure it actually works, because implementing is one part. I think it's always like implementing something is easy, making sure that people are actually stay consistent, that's
The point, like the continuity and the maturity to get your, or your security posture on a mature level. Again, it's the ability you need. So most users I speak to, who mostly lead those projects from like the top, focus therefore on developer improvement of their skills, and metrics like benchmarking metrics. So we have something that calls trust score, and that's a key metrics now to measure the AppSec team performance against industry standards. So and to just maybe paint a bit of picture where this came from, we were the first to bring this to market, and we have a foundation on the platform of the largest data set with 20 million data points as customers and 250,000 learners. So we took the data we have, and then now you can measure yourself against your industry. So technology or finance will see themselves benchmark against their industry. Has become, the biggest metrics, of course, for so many, because it's so easy. It's one number. It gives you the visibility, and you want to, of course, see the score going to the
higher, the best in your industry, or than the rest.
You're above average, and also it's a good motivator if you're below. So it became a crucial metrics of to increase that benchmark trust score. So you obviously can then show to anyone who's else involved, hey, we're improving. So we even have the improvement over time. So and that's to your point of continuity. How can you then justify to keep going? And it would be then, for example, that trust score.
Okay, makes sense. And there is one thing I ask at the end, towards the end of the podcast. What kind of learning resources or book would you recommend to someone? Either it can be, an AppSec engineer wanting to implement a security champion program in their organization, or maybe a developer learning more about security. What kind of interesting resources would you recommend?
So, I mean, it's again goes personally what you like. Do you like to read? Do you like to be more hands-on? Do you want to listen to? I prefer listen to podcasts. So such as yourselves, or co-founder had a great series. Learned so much. Security gurus. Just learn from exit from the field. Or if we think about, Tanya, who has also released great
bubble lumps,
things like this I have looked at, and again it's just this kind of approach of being so real life examples. I think it always helps. There's also the Secure Code Coach across who just provides free learning activities as well. So just look around, like I guess so that thing I have to say, the developer community really cares to share knowledge. Like that's why the OWASP AppSec in Lisbon was so successful, because you could really realize, people came together, they really cared to share what they think and what they know, and developers or people AppSec to further their skills and and their knowledge. I think that's where you can realize in the community they always been about sharing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the community aspect is the aspect that comes again the most during the podcast. I think it's incredibly important, and also like with WASP local chapters, it helps you to exchange a little bit easier. the knowledge and do like attend the meetups sometimes you can't maybe afford or your organization doesn't support you to go to like huge events, but at least if you have something, someone present locally, it still helps you to feel more involved or being a part of something.
And it's funny that the HR is involved in the project. They would ask this kind of question: oh, do you have community forums, or do you have like the events, or can we invite you to our academy day we have like once a month and speak about a hot topic? So you see, they bring a whole different thinking and dynamic to it as well. It's always great to see when different departments are involved. It just really drives the program in a complete different tempo and things. So actually, Q and OASP, and they're for doing training to go on OASP. So they got the ticket to go to the conference. So they love it. That's, for example, as well a good tip to reward developers to go to those huge conferences.
Yeah, that's nice. That extra pizza. It's better than pizza for them, I guess.
In conferences.
Yes, travel around and learn and exchange with others. I think it's incredible reward. Thank you so much, Magdalena, for coming on the podcast and talking about the security programs. It was super insightful and learned a lot. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you.